Officials in Quebec and Ontario have been warning hospitals are nearing a critical point.
Our healthcare system is at risk here.
Now they're preparing for the worst with tools ready to help medical staff make unthinkable decisions around who should get critical care if ICU capacity runs out.
Even reading the protocol turns my stomach. I mean, I understand it. It's based on saving the most number of people based on their overall likelihood of surviving. So the spirit of it is good, but I've never had to make decisions like this.
It hasn't come to that yet, but critical care staff in both provinces have been told to prepare.
It is contrary to everything that any physician, I imagine, has ever been taught.
The Quebec protocol involves a 3-person team in each hospital.
You get a score that reflects your chance of survival. And the ethical principle behind it is, of course, to maximize the benefits, to save the most lives, and so the patient with the best chance of survival will be prioritized.
But it all brings up so many ethical questions.
Wrapped up in a bunch of medical language, but it still risks serious discrimination against some patients with disabilities.
Quebec changed its protocol after similar complaints. Ontario's says the approach aims to prevent bias, while doctors in both provinces say they hope the situation they're preparing for never happens.
The pandemic has forced Walmart to temporarily close several Southern California stores. The company says it's part of a plan to allow third-party cleaning crews time to thoroughly sanitize buildings. The stores are the Downey Neighborhood Market on Paramount Boulevard, the Torrance Supercenter on Hawthorne Boulevard, and the Huntington Beach Supercenter on Talbot Avenue. The stores are set to reopen at 7 a.m. tomorrow.
We just should be a human, and ultimate, as we know, vaccines is the ultimate goal. We gotta vaccinate everybody. Oh no, we do not. We refuse. We say no. We're not gonna allow medical experimentations happening. Study the history. The history is full of examples of medical experiments. We're not going to allow this happen here. Children are the future. Yes or yes? Everybody, children are the future. Everybody, children are the future. Children are the future. Children are the future. Children are the future. Children are the future.
评分没有什么特殊的可怜了。
亲人不在，我们现在就是你的亲人。
他的小名叫小企鹅，这是最可爱的了。先拍个照，谢谢。
要不说你刚刚不讲，要不怎么这话题不拉个？
不好意思啊，对不起啊。
This pandemic is changing everything, Richard, and it's even shrinking Toronto's population.
You know, ever since they kept records on this, Stats Canada, Erica, Toronto's population has grown year after year, right? You know, a lot of people move here and a lot of students come and all this, and it's been a city on the grow for pretty much ever. Up until now, Stats Canada today said from July 1, 2019 to July 2020, Toronto lost 50,300 people, which is a record, loss for the city. And people, it seems, moving to surrounding areas amid the pandemic era. Right. Erica, Oshawa experienced the fastest growth. Oshawa grew 2.1%. population-wise. Kitchener, Cambridge, Waterloo grew by 2%. Milton saw its population jump 4%, and Brampton up 3.4%. What do you think? Would you like to move and out of the city, you know, get that bigger house, the more of the room, or are you
One of
like
my
me?
really good friends, she just moved to Pickering with her husband, so and she's trying to convince me to move out there with her. I don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, I like the city. I don't know if I could survive outside the city.
Yeah.
You know?
On the eve of the new season, the NHL is reporting 27 players are positive for COVID. 9 teams reported cases. The Dallas Stars had the most with 17. Most of the infected players are asymptomatic. Citing COVID, Canadian NHL star Evander Kane suggested he may want to sit out the season. The revelation was in a bankruptcy filing. The San Jose Sharks forward owes creditors nearly $27 million US. That's about 34 million Canadian. CTV's Todd Battis on the financial downfall for a player still in his prime.
Shoots, Dave, rebound, scores! For over a decade, Evander Kane has been one of the most reliable forwards in hockey. His finances aren't as solid. While he famously posed for photos with stacks of cash in Las Vegas, he lost over $1 million gambling last year and owes much more. Court documents list 47 creditors, including Scotiabank, American Express, and something called Loan Shark Holdings. The IRS and state of California are owed back taxes. The 29-year-old's monthly expenses total more than $93,000, including $8,000 a month for food. Among his $10 million in assets, 3 high-end homes in Vancouver and San Jose.
Ireland is almost in full lockdown, the most stringent measures since last spring. The country has been blindsided by a recent spike in COVID cases.
We're seeing deaths rising in a way that actually not only equals our situation back in March and April, but actually exceeds that. And that's really, really shocked all of us.
Shocking because Ireland had been doing relatively well. In early December, Ireland's case rate per capita was a fraction of Canada's, but through Christmas and past New Year's, it has shot up to become among the highest in the world. Part of the problem may have been Ireland comparing its performance to other European nations, most of which had very high infection rates.
Unfortunately, I believe we didn't get the figures down adequately in early December, but then there was a lot of expectation and almost political pressure on the government from retailers and from the hospitality industry to open up and have some sort of save Christmas, if you like.
Fatefully, the government decided to allow limited Christmas socialising.
The Irish love Christmas is the main reason here, I guess, and with the best will in the world, there was going to be households mixing anyway, and it looks like as if that was far too extensive in a sense. And one example was they were trying to restrict families mixing, so 2 families were allowed. People clearly broke that rule and had more than 3 or 4 households mixing over successive days.
The new, more infectious variant is now more prevalent, potentially brought in by emigrants from the UK coming home for the holidays.
It might be part of the story, but the main reason, as I say, is behavioural change. But it is there and it's spreading, so it's even more important to restrict movements and so on.
Like Canada, Ireland has just introduced the requirement for a negative test result for all arriving air passengers. That move and Ireland's overall strategy is compromised by its open border with Northern Ireland. Its rules more closely aligned with measures in Great Britain.
This was the scene last Sunday, a different flight, Flight 4 into Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C.
I happen to be pretty much right up in the section of that whole little group there.
The man who took that video asked that we not use his name. It wasn't the patriotism that bothered him. It was that this group of Trump supporters didn't wear masks. And this song, while taxiing up to the gate, wasn't the only maskless moment.
They were frequently asked throughout the flight to put their masks on. It actually required the flight crew to make a general announcement on the plane to make sure everyone wears their mask, because that whole area had people that were frequently leaving their masks off.
Safety dance.
You've probably seen those catchy Alaska commercials, the safety dance. At one point, 3 flight attendants show yellow cards.
Don't mask, and why don't they mask? Well, they won't fly this airline.
Those yellow cards, they aren't just a prop. They're real.
turn them over, and this is the final notice to passengers to put on their masks or else. If the passenger doesn't comply, that means they won't be boarded on their connecting flight or their return flight or any Alaska flight as long as the mask policy is in place. But the airline will refund their fare. Alaska says yellow cards were not issued on the flight we just showed you, but they were on Flight 1085 from Dulles to SeaTac last night. Another group, which the airline says also harassed and argued with the crew. The airline asked for SeaTac police to be standing by at the gate. They did, but in the end, the airport says the police were not needed. There were no arrests. For the passenger on Flight 4, he may speak for many.
I mean, obviously I'm frustrated with them with anyone not taking the pandemic seriously, especially on a flight. A good reason to take their masks off, and for some petty display like this, it was really frustrating.
Now, this passenger you just heard from is taking this issue up with Alaska Airlines directly. Also, this is now 302 people that Alaska has banned from its flights due to the mask issue. Now you're asking, well, what about the HEPA filters, those kinds of things, the ventilation we've been hearing about? Well, that has been looked at by Boeing, Airbus, and Embraer, the Brazilian airplane maker that makes those smaller jets that Alaska, Delta, and many other airlines use. They say, yes, HEPA filters get most of the virus. They get a lot of other stuff. The circulation in the plane recycles air, but they say it doesn't get it all, so therefore you still need to wear the masks to stay safe.
Well, Pat, we got some perspective today on just how dire the situation is. An average of about 170 people die every day in LA County from all other causes of death combined. Coronavirus cases alone nearly doubled in the last 24 hours. It's hard to believe, right? The morbid evidence of that is seen right here, and it's difficult to look at as National Guard troops are in LA County helping the coroner. The medical examiner's office said new refrigerated storage units installed early in the pandemic had remained largely unused until recently. The department said while there is currently sufficient storage, it is still expanding capacity to meet potential future demands.
The scale of the tragedy associated with this pandemic is unfathomable, even more so because so much of it has been preventable. The very high numbers I will report today are sadly no surprise. They didn't happen by accident. They are a direct result of the many people who were not following the necessary precautions over the winter holiday, not wearing face coverings, not limiting contact with those outside their households, not physically distancing when outside the home, and not refraining from traveling.
Well, the bright spot here, Pat, is vaccines are now being distributed to all 3 tiers of the first phase. That includes frontline workers and all staff and patients of long-term care facilities. Now, the hope is to have that complete by the end of this month or the beginning of next month.
The pace of vaccinations is steadily increasing, and we are working to ensure our existing supplies of doses are administered as quickly as possible.
Well, still, health officials do say they anticipate hospitalizations and deaths to remain high throughout this month.
Chris, she was scratched and bruised all over. This was a frightening situation, and she says it would have been worth it, but she did not get the stolen dog back. Bully Camp in Harris County is full of bulldogs, exotic breeds, and the people that care for them.
I just love all types of animals.
And Alize James's love for animals has no bounds. Here she is holding onto the hood of a speeding car, inside 2 thieves and an exotic bully.
I'm hanging on for dear life.
James says on November 4th, she went to grab paperwork as a couple said they wanted to buy this $10,000 exotic bully.
She's right here, the man's right there. She grabs the dog swiftly and exits.
Surveillance cameras caught the couple leaving. The man starts to jog off. Then James bolts after them. Her concern, the bully who had surgery and needs medication.
My mind is focused on her health. I obviously didn't care about my well-being.
She chased the couple to their car. She demanded they give the dog back. Instead, they hit her with the car, then threatened to run her over.
Next time I heard the gas go, he went very aggressively, and it kind of like slapped me on top of the car.
She clung to the car as they sped throughout the area.
They were also like weaving and driving reckless, and I could barely hold on. I was so scared.
Then finally, after about 10 minutes, the car stopped, but her plight wasn't over as the man got out of the car.
And he grabs me by my feet, and then he grabs me by my chest, and he starts hitting me.
She fought back, but the couple got away with the dog. Authorities identify the woman as 21-year-old Roshana King. They have not identified the man she was with. What do they deserve?
They deserve jail time.
And Harris County officials agreed they're searching for King, who's been charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon. Meanwhile, James says she has no regrets, but she would not chase after them again.
Caught on video, a DoorDash driver snatching a dog during a delivery in Warren. Thank you for joining us here at 6. I'm Dave Llewellyn.
And I'm Carolyn Clifford. 7 Action News reporter Simon Shakette shows us what it took to bring that pup back home.
Police say that dog napper confessed to stealing a puppy here at this home as soon as they tracked her down, and they say the video in this case is compelling. Caught on video, a despicable puppy pirate with no shame. This DoorDash delivery driver hitting the door with some grub, then dashing off with Ashley Swinton's 8-week-old puppy.
You could see her like pet the dog, rub the dog. I guess she was trying to see if the dog was vicious or anything. Then you see her scoop the dog up and take the dog directly to her car.
They invited this person to deliver food to their home and trusted them to do their job, and they delivered the food, but obviously took something that didn't belong to them.
Just after the new year, Warren police unleashing their top detectives on the case here on Rivard near Van Dyke on a mission to find Bella the puppy. And they used this surveillance video to chase down leads.
If you can take a dog, you can take someone's belongings, you can take a kid, anything. Like, you don't just do things like that.
This is a new one even for me. It's pretty shocking when you watch the video and see it happen right in front of you.
Tracked to the area of 11 Mile Road and Van Dyke. Detectives sniffing out their suspect with some help from DoorDash. Police say the woman they collared had no explanation except to own up to the crime.
They admitted to stealing the dog. I recovered the dog from the scene, still in good health and happy, and returned it to the family.
The 26-year-old seen here lives at nearby 11 Mile and Van Dyke. As for the family that was targeted by the accused thief, there's relief knowing this won't happen to another unsuspecting customer.
They were extremely shocked. They had several children in the home, and it was a Christmas gift for them that obviously had been taken a couple days previous, and they assumed that it would never be returned.
This could have been something that could have been put to the bottom of the list, but they actually took the time to do good police work.
The family here continues to express their gratitude to Warren police for effective police work in recovering their puppy. Also, we've learned charges could be coming soon.
This has been a Wolfie Terry production 2021.